So a few weeks ago, I got accepted into Alex Hormozi's private coaching cohort called the 100. This is a group of 100 people selected out of thousands of applicants to be personally coached by Alex Hormozi to scale their businesses on School. So in this video, I'm gonna give you an inside look and share the key 5 lessons that we've learned from being part of the 100 so that you can implement them into your business and hit your 20K, 30K, or even 50K per month plus. So on August 2nd, Alex Hormozi made this announcement: School Speedrunners, new free private cohort for 100 people. He said many people have untapped potential. To help you untap it, we're launching a new free private cohort called the School Speedrunners. Andrew Kirby and I will help 100 of you get to $10,000 per month as fast as possible by walking you through our school monetization protocol. Now, they eventually opened this up to businesses that were making more than $10,000 per month. It was free, but you had to apply. So they gave us a questionnaire. You answered a few questions. You sent a Loom video, and thousands and thousands of people applied to this, okay? So on September 18th, I was walking and I got this email from Andrew Kirby. He said, "Hello, congratulations. You are one of the 100 selected for Hormozi Speedrunner competition. Please read this email carefully." Now, when I got this, my mind was just completely blown. And if you know me, I just love Andrew Kirby. I love Alex Hormozi. And being a part of this, I am so grateful for this opportunity. So a few days later, Andrew Kirby said, "School Speedrunners announcement. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time. The 100 School Speedrunner Challenge kicks off tomorrow. Out of thousands of applicants, 100 speedrunners have been emailed an exclusive invite to join the challenge. During the challenge, I'll help these people rapidly grow their school businesses with what we've seen to be the best model." Right now, let's get into the 5 key things that we've been taught to scale our businesses on School. So lesson number 1 is speed is king. And this is why they call us speed runners. So money loves speed, wealth loves time, poverty loves indecision. And that's something Alex Hormozi said himself. So I actually found a study by Yesware that found that businesses that respond to leads within 5 minutes increase the likelihood of making contact by 100x and converting that lead by 21x. So think about that for a second. Your probabilities increase by 21x if you contact a lead within the first 5 minutes of getting their information, right? That's why money loves speed. And I wanted to ask you a question. Does making $1 million make you rich, right? Let me know in the comments if you think making $1 million makes you rich, because the answer is no, it doesn't. Making $1 million in 50 years doesn't make you rich, right? But it's the speed that you make that $1 million in. If you make it in a year, some people would consider that rich. You make it in 50 years, that's not very rich, is it? So that's why key lesson here is speed is king. So what is the model that they're actually teaching here? Well, I call this the high ticket community funnel, right? And this is a very basic model, okay? So you drive traffic into a free community, a free school group, etc. You engage that school group, you give them value, you nurture that school group. It's set up in a way that ascends people into something called a strategy call. Now, a strategy call is just a classic sales call, right? And on that sales call, you present a premium high ticket annual offer. This can be anything that's above $1,000. It's a yearly subscription into a paid group. And once you close that person on the sales call, you deliver on what your promise was for the offer. And that's really customer success and things like coaching, things like services, depending on what niche you're in, what your offer is, right? So the reason that they're teaching this model is twofold. One, we are living really in a trust recession where trust is at an all-time low across the board, right? And what this free group funnel does is it builds trust by continuously delivering value to people and nurturing people and giving people free courses, free value. And as you give more free stuff in this group, not only do you own that group, you own the audience, but you're also continuing to deliver value. And over time, that builds up trust, right? That's number 1. Number 2 is because most people are launching low ticket communities and $27 per month, $50 per month, and you need a lot of volume in order to make that work, and it's very hard to make work, okay? And so what they're saying is we need to go to high ticket, over $1,000, and offer an annual subscription, not a low ticket monthly, right? We want annual subscription, and the mechanism to get people into the annual subscription is through a sales call. So next is the 4 key blockers of scale, and this is really the four key things that prevents almost any business, particularly online businesses and school communities, from scaling, right? So number one is a weak offer and pricing. Like I mentioned earlier, a lot of people are selling very low ticket with a weak offer. And so what they're saying here is we want a premium offer. We don't want our offer to be a commodity. And high ticket makes more money than low ticket 99% of the time, unless you have just loads and loads of volume and traffic. And so one counter example of this is Logan Paul with Prime, right? Now Logan Paul is selling Logan Paul juice to his hundreds of millions of followers, and they're making $1 billion brand out of this, and he's even partnered with other influencers like this KSI guy to expand his reach even more. So this low ticket model can work if you have extreme volume, right? But most people are out there launching these low ticket commodity offers, right? And a commodity is essentially a race to the bottom because you're offering something that a bunch of other people are offering. Your competition is sky high, and most likely the person that you're targeting has already been offered that from somebody else. And so the market is extremely saturated, and the only way to win in that scenario is if you price lower, right? And then if you have two competing offers who are pricing lower against one another, they're essentially going to be priced lower and lower and lower until eventually their margins shrink and their business just disappears into abysmal, goes bankrupt, whatever, right? So instead of having this commoditized offer, we want a premium offer, okay? And a premium offer comes with a moat where a limited number of people can compete, right? So here's an example, right? A commodity offer would be like lead gen for gym owners, right? Because anybody can run Facebook ads. Like anybody can run Facebook ads to a location and get leads into a gym. It's not that hard. It just takes a few buttons. The algorithm picks up everything, and there's going to be a lot of competition in that market, right? But a premium offer would be something like running those Facebook ads, making sure people show up to the gym, generating these sales calls, and then closing these sales calls and taking a commission on that, right? Because that requires a lot more technical skill, right? You have to be good at closing, you have to be good at setting, you have to be good at making people show up, and it requires a lot more effort. And it's something that not a lot of businesses are willing to do because of the time and effort that it takes. But that very reason is why it's premium. And so when you do something like this, you can charge a premium price, right? Because the business owner isn't going to think that you're just another, agency running their ads. They're going to think that you are the rainmaker and you're going to be paying a premium price. And that is what I do for all my clients, right? I'm not just out here building school communities and saying, oh, well, here you go. There are dozens and dozens of other people who build school communities. I don't think a lot of people do it well, but that is just one area of my entire offer, right? I also have things like building out your webinar funnel, your workshop, building out your sales page, writing your VSLs, building your entire email marketing campaign. And when you bundle these things together for a holistic solution, you can charge premium prices with a strong guarantee. So that's number one, weak offer and pricing. We want a premium offer. We want it to be high ticket. We want to find our competitive advantage, and we want to find our moat that competition has a hard time competing with, right? Number two is a poor converting funnel. Now, they are teaching a free group funnel in this, right? So what you want to do is you want to get your leads in through top of funnel socials, and then you want to nurture those leads, and you want to continuously provide strategically placed content that helps people understand who you are and what you do, helps them break limiting beliefs they have about the thing that you teach, their internal awareness, their external circumstances. And then you ultimately want to show a load of case studies and testimonials. And then you want to get them to book a call with you or get them to your conversion mechanism like a webinar or workshop, right? So that's really what you want to do. And the key here is that these leads are educated and informed by you before they get on a call, right? So the conversion percentage of an educated and informed warm lead is going to be much, much, much higher than a cold lead who picks up from you on, a Facebook ad, right? Because we're living in a low trust market. And so what we need to do is we need to strategically place content so that we get it in front of our audience's eyes so that we educate them and they consume our content. And that is what's going to push them over the line. That is what is going to compress the time to build trust. So the old way of doing things is essentially getting new traffic in and having these big over promises, these ridiculous guarantees, these high pressure sales tactics, almost forcing people into something that they don't want to do and being extremely deceptive, right? And that's because a lot of people, they're focused on the quantity of leads that they have, right? And a lot of the times these leads are generated from cold traffic. And like I said, we're living in a low trust environment. And so when somebody's cold, that means they don't know you. They haven't consumed your content, and there's not a lot of trust built up within that relationship. And so instead of having these giant guarantees and, I'll make you $100,000 or you don't pay that you can't actually deliver on, what we're going to do is we're going to focus on the new way of converting, which is adding value first. We're going to be nurturing and relationship building, and we're going to be educating the leads on what they need to know before they hop on the sales call, right? And the free group funnel that they're teaching in this 100 actually allows you to do all three, right? Because what you do is you direct people to your digital education-based assets, okay? So these are going to be strategically placed assets that are in the free group funnel that educate the lead and nurture them at the same time, right? And these work for you on autopilot because you can just record them and then place them in the free community, right? And this is educating the prospect about who you are and what you do, giving you credibility. It makes them problem aware. It makes them solution aware, and it overcomes their personal or external and circumstantial doubts about the thing that you're talking about. And then it makes them offer aware. So you can actually even present your offer within this so that they understand this is how I can go deeper. This is how I can work with this person, right? So the third key blocker is a bad sales system, right? Now, in order to get a high ticket sales system, we want to increase the cash conversion cycle by compressing time to free value in education, right? And this allows you to book calls with educated and qualified leads. Okay. So as soon as you get a lead, what we want to do is we want to be extremely quick in educating them on what you do, what the problem is, what the solution is, overcoming their doubts, and presenting them the offer. Okay. So this is known as the sales process, right? And in order to convert, we have sales calls, we have webinars, we have live events, we have challenges, and a lot of these are used as compression mechanisms that build trust, educate the buyer, and pitch the offer in an extremely quick amount of time, right? So one thing that I love to do with my clients is these webinars and workshops, because they compress that time to value. They compress the problem solution awareness. And just last week, we ran a workshop that did 14.4K in 90 minutes, right? And here's the proof of that. This was from one workshop in 90 minutes that we set up. Now, the reason that these sales calls, they are less leveraged than these webinars and workshops is because you're selling one-on-one, right? And so you need a lot of volume in order to make up the same amount of money that something like 90 minutes from a webinar or workshop, could sell, right? So there is a framework. It's called the closer framework. If you don't know about it, just look up closer sales framework, and then you can walk through that. But essentially, Alex Hormozi teaches this framework, and it's really amazing. If you guys want me to make a video on anything related to sales, let me know, and I'll do that. So the next key blocker is traffic. Okay, so if you're not an influencer or personal brand, you don't have a big following, you don't have a big audience, this is most likely your problem, right? Now, they suggest to be aggressive with your advertising, and they say volume negates luck in terms of advertising and time spent on advertising. And the way that, Hormozi and Kirby look at this is through the more, better, new framework. So, if you're making YouTube videos and you're getting a little bit of traction with it, why can't you do more, right? What is holding you back from increasing the volume, increasing the frequency that you're posting? And then after you ramp up the frequency and do more, you kind of can say, okay, how can we do better, right? How can I make my hooks better on YouTube? How can I make my intros, thumbnails, all of that better? How can I make this more valuable for you guys, right? Then we go to better. And if that still isn't working, then we look at new channels. So, if I go at YouTube for 2 years and it doesn't work, then I might have to think, well, maybe I need to rethink my strategy, right? Maybe I need to go on Instagram. Maybe I need to go on Twitter. Maybe I need to start running paid ads. And so new is the last resort to solving these problems. Another thing that they teach is the rule of 300. And this is very aggressive advertising, right? They've told us about the rule of 100, but now they're telling us the rule of 300. Now, the rule of 300 is you want to spend 100 minutes on content per day, 100 outreaches per day, and 100 comments on people's social channels, etc. per day. Now, this is the rule of 300, and this is a very aggressive way of generating traffic and generating demand, right? So in content, what you can do is you can generate content in free groups. And this actually requires less skill than getting attention on social media platforms, right? So I do this every week, right? I go into free groups where I know my target customer is, and I make value posts. And here's one explaining me, how I made 10K in 60 minutes on school, right? And in here, I break down the strategies and the tactics that I'm using to make money on school, and people will see this, right? They'll click on my profile, and then they'll go to my own school community and they'll click join. So by adding value, by leading with value, by giving out the strategies, giving out the information, I'm attracting people to my world. And those are leads that I will go in and then make an offer to if they fit or qualify for, who I'm looking for. You can also do this in Reddit forums, Facebook groups, LinkedIn groups, school groups. You want to look for active groups filled with your niche's ICP. And you can do this like 3 to 5 posts, and you can repurpose it across multiple groups. You can repurpose it across your Facebook groups. You can repurpose it across your school groups, right? You can repurpose your YouTube channel script into these school groups to generate traffic. Now, this strategy is for people who don't have an audience, right? This strategy is for people who are growing an audience, okay? You can also do comments, right? So what you want to do is you want to follow influential creators in your niche and comment on their post. And following the rule of 100, you want to do 100 comments per day. Okay, so what this does is it piggybacks off of their content skills so that you can get noticed by the creators themselves and the other people who follow those creators, right? And so what you want to do is you want to make your comments higher value than anybody else's, okay? And then finally, in terms of traffic, you have your classic organic social posts, okay? So this is X, Twitter once a day, TikTok once a day, YouTube, IG, LinkedIn, and Facebook. Right now, if you are an influencer or a creator, you're probably on one of these things. And if you have gotten down the formula for consistently getting traffic through organic, then you have a ton of potential. Okay. And I want to help you. So if you're interested in working with me, then go down below this video, click the description, and go ahead and apply. And I will check out your profile. We can book a call and we can talk about kind of a game plan, strategy plan for you going forward, how we can actually scale your business to 20K, 30K, 50K months. Okay. Now, the next thing is this GPS framework, right? And if you don't know who this guy is Sam Ovens, and he built a business called consulting.com that did millions and millions per year. And he even did a mastermind called Quantum. And Sam Ovens' key framework that he uses, that he teaches to his students, to his masterminds, is so simple, you won't believe it. Okay. So this GPS framework is helped in design to help you remove the bottleneck from, your business. The first step of this GPS framework is define goal. Right? Just define your goal. Is it 50K per month? Is it 100K per month? It's crazy because when you ask this question, a lot of people will just babble and they'll ramble. And that's how you know that they're just confused. Okay. So define what your goal is, first of all, in terms of revenue. Okay. And then after that, you ask yourself, what's your number one problem that's holding you back from reaching that goal? Okay. So I put a little quote in here by Einstein. And he said, if I had an hour to solve a problem, I'd spend 55 minutes thinking about the problem and 5 minutes thinking about the solutions. So here's a big mistake that I've noticed a lot of people do, which is coming up with solutions before defining the problem. Okay. And ideas are just meaningless and they can be distracting if you're not identifying the bottleneck. Okay. That is the key, is to direct all your focus to solving the one constraint from scaling. And that's what Alex Hormozi does. He actually has a quote: all I do is identify constraints and solve them. That's all Alex Hormozi does. That's how he scales these businesses. He identifies the constraint. He's not pitching a million ideas. He's finding the goal, he's defining the problem, and then he's removing that problem. Okay. Now, the last thing is measure what matters. Okay. Now, a lot of people are out here focusing on vanity metrics in their business, okay? But we want to focus on the metrics that matter, not the vanity metrics, okay? So what are these vanity metrics? I mean, mostly they're just likes and views and comments and these metrics that make you feel good, but actually don't show you that your business is increasing, right? So in this conversion funnel, right, the community high ticket funnel, these are the key metrics that you really need to pay attention to. So one is free group conversions, right? And this needs to be above 15%. And in my free group, right, I'm at like 28.95%. So in the last 5 days, or last 7 days, 52 about page visitors, 15 signups, 30% conversion rate. You want this to be above 15%. Okay. You can tweak this by changing your school about page, your VSL, et cetera. I'm not going to get into the weeds right now, but this is what you want to aim for, right? You also want to optimize for calls booked. So 10% of these people who go into the free group, you want them to book a call. So if you have a group of 2,000 people, free members, you want to make sure you've at least gotten on 200 sales calls, right, with those people to offer that high ticket service. And if your high ticket service is at $2,000, well, 200 people, closing at 20% rate at a $2,000 price point, that's 40 times 2,000, which is 80,000. So that's a lot of money, right? That's a lot of money. You also want to optimize for show up rate. So a lot of times people will book a call and they'll forget about it. They'll go on about their life. They won't check their phone and they just become no-shows. And there is nothing more frustrating than having no-shows on a sales call, because your time is literally money. And when you don't have people show up to the call, you're literally setting money on fire, right? And the way that you overcome this is you send follow-up messages, you send text messages, you send emails, and you send things that pre-frame the prospect before they even get on the sales calls, so that they're educated and informed, which is placing these strategic digital assets so that you can educate, nurture, and engage the audience. Okay. The next thing is close rate. So out of those people that you get on calls with, how many are you closing? Ideally, you want to be closing 20%, right? If you're closing 60%, that's not good, because you want to increase the price if you're closing 60%, right? You want to hover around 20, 30% close rate. Okay. Next is cash collected. So this just really shows who you're targeting and how much money they actually have. So 30% plus cash collected is the metric that they gave us. You also have ROAS. So if you're spending money on ads, you want a ROAS, which is a return on ad spend of more than 3x. Then you're looking for a profit margin of more than 60%. So as you hire people, as you delegate more resources, as you get more infrastructure, your profit margin is actually going to shrink because you're paying out these other expenses like people, like ads, etc. But we want to aim for a 60% profit margin, right? And these businesses on School, they are some of the highest profit margin businesses that you can possibly have, because they don't require a lot of talent, right? You can do this easily with a few VAs or a few community managers, or just one awesome growth operator. And 60% plus is pretty much the profit margin that you want, right? So in summary, speed is king when it comes to making money, right? The best model that they're teaching is this high ticket community funnel. Okay. The 4 blockers of scaling your business: traffic, funnel, offer, sales. Use the GPS framework to identify and relieve the bottleneck of your business, and measure what matters and focus on the things that matter according to the funnel that you're building. That's it for today. Hope you enjoyed. Let me know if you did. Give me a like, comment, and share this with a friend if you found it interesting, found it valuable. And I'll see you in the next video. Cheers.